At my 30th birthday, my sister hit live and my dad put me on trial. 70-plus relatives stared like jurors while he demanded $500,000 for raising me and slid a contract across the table. My mom yanked my car keys. My sister grinned at the comments as if my life were content. I didn't cry, I screenshot everything. Then a gray-suited stranger stepped forward, voice steady. "I'm your father." The room froze. In that second, I understood why they invited everyone. I sent one cold text, "Thanks for the receipts." And that's when my dad's face told me the real case hadn't even started. 4 weeks earlier, I was sitting under fluorescent lights at the dispatch center headset, crooked on one ear, logging a call that had ended better than most. My sister Tessa never called me during my shift unless she wanted something. So when her name flashed on my screen, I stepped into the hallway and answered with that tired caution you learn after years of emergencies. "Marilyn," she sang breathless like she was about to hand me a gift. "Don't freak out, but Mom and Dad are throwing you a surprise party. For your 30th. Like a real one. Everybody's coming." I actually laughed. It came out sharp and small. In 30 years, my parents hadn't thrown me a party once. Not when I made honor roll, not when I paid off my own car, not when I started working nights. Tessa, meanwhile, got balloons, speeches, and a room full of people applauding her for simply existing. "Tessa," I said, "are you sure you've got the right sister stop?" I could hear her smile through the phone. "They said 30 is different. They want to do something nice. And Dad told me you're going to love it." Dad, the man who measured love in leverage. Still a stupid, hopeful part of me warmed anyway. Maybe this was the year they finally saw me. Maybe all the trying had finally added up to something. Then Tessa lowered her voice. "One more thing. Dad wants you there early. He said there's paperwork he wants to go over before everyone arrives. Just family stuff. Don't make it weird, okay, paperwork." That word snagged in my ribs, but I swallowed it down the way I always did and told her I'd be there. That night, I stared at my closet like it could answer questions. I chose a navy dress that made me look composed, not flashy, the kind of outfit you wear when you're trying to earn respect in a room that never planned to give it. I even bought my parents a small gift because I still believed effort could change people. On the morning of the party, Dad called me himself. His tone was syrup smooth. "Big night, sweetheart. Bring your license, okay, just so we can straighten out a few family details." I told myself it was normal. I told myself a lot of things. And then I drove to my own birthday dinner, practicing a surprised smile I never got to use. The restaurant looked expensive in that way that tries to convince you nothing bad can happen inside. Soft lighting, polished stone, a hostess smiling like she was trained to never notice tension. I told her my name. She glanced at her tablet, then pointed down a hallway lined with framed photos and quiet music. "Private rooms," she said. "They're all waiting." All waiting. The phrase landed wrong. My heels clicked too loudly as I walked. I kept rehearsing that surprised laugh in my head, the hand to my chest, moment the grateful daughter routine. I reached the double doors and paused, smoothing my dress like fabric could smooth my nerves. Then I pushed inside. No balloons, no streamers, no cake, no voices yelling, "Surprise!" Just silence thick enough to swallow breath. More than 70 faces turned toward me at once. A wall of relatives I hadn't seen in years packed shoulder to shoulder like they'd been summoned to watch something they didn't want to be blamed for later. Some looked away immediately. Some stared as if they'd already decided the verdict. A few held their phones low in their laps, screens glowing ready. I scanned for Tessa first. She was near the front, perched like this was front row at a show phone already in her hand. Not recording yet, but angled hungry, waiting for the moment she could hit a button and claim it. Then I saw my parents. Dad stood behind a long table at the center of the room. A microphone sat on a small stand in front of him, the kind you use for toasts. Mom stood beside him, hands folded jaw tight, eyes flat. Between them was a neat stack of paperwork and a thick folder like props laid out for a performance. 2 chairs were positioned facing them slightly apart, like someone had measured the distance for maximum discomfort. One of the chairs was clearly meant for me. My stomach tightened. "Is this—" For me, I tried to make my voice light. It came out thin. No one answered. Behind my aunt's shoulder, I noticed a man with a camera on a tripod. Not a relative, not a waiter. A professional. His lens was pointed straight at the empty chair. That was when the word Dad used on the phone came back sharp. Paperwork, license, family details. Tessa finally grinned as if my confusion was the punchline. "Go on," she whispered too loud to be kind. "Sit." Dad lifted the microphone and didn't smile. He didn't even pretend. "Marilyn," he said, formal as a court clerk. "Take a seat. We need to clear something up in front of everyone." My hands went cold. I looked around one last time, searching for a single face that might soften a single person willing to say, "This is wrong." All I found were witnesses. I sat. Dad opened the folder with slow, practiced fingers. "This is not a birthday party," he said into the microphone. "This is a reckoning." Dad lifted a single page from the folder and held it up like evidence. "Before anyone starts acting confused," he said into the microphone, "we're going to keep this simple. We verified what we needed to verify." Mom's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. Her mouth was a thin, impatient line, like she'd been waiting years to say this out loud. Dad looked straight at me. "You are not our biological child." A ripple moved through the room, not shock, not sympathy, just that ugly little flutter of people enjoying a secret finally being spoken. Someone whispered, "I knew it," like my life was a rumor they'd won. My throat went dry. "What are you talking about?" Dad didn't answer my question. He set the page down and pulled out another stack of papers, neatly clipped, organized, prepared. "We raised you," he continued, voice steady, rehearsed. "We fed you, clothed you, housed you. And now, since you're grown, we're going to settle the account." He slid the contract across the table with 2 fingers, like he didn't want to touch me. $500,000, he said loud enough for every relative to hear. "That's the total cost. And that's what you owe." The number hit the air and stayed there heavy and absurd. $500,000 for the privilege of being tolerated. I stared at the contract, at the bold total at the rows underneath that looked like bills and expenses broken into categories. My pulse thudded in my ears. "You can't be serious." Mom stepped forward faster than I expected. Her hand shot out and closed around my wrist. Before I could even react, she pried my car keys out of my palm. The metal scraped my skin. She held them up triumphant. "We can," she said. "And we are." "That's my car," I said, voice cracking despite myself. "You have what you have because of this family," she snapped back. "You walk around acting so independent like we didn't make you." Across from me, Tessa sucked in a delighted breath like she'd been waiting for the perfect moment. Her thumb tapped her screen. The red badge appeared. Live. "Oh my God," she said sweetly, angling the phone to catch my face at my worst. "Guys, you are not ready for this. This is literally my sister's 30th birthday, and my dad is finally telling the truth." The room seemed to tilt. In the corner of my eye, I saw her comments flying up the screen. People I'd never met were watching me from couches and kitchens, judging me in real time. My own family sat behind them like a wall. "Turn that off," Mom hissed at Tessa without looking away from me. Tessa widened her eyes innocently. "It's already out there, Mom." "Don't worry, I'm framing it right." Dad's voice cut back and sharper now, annoyed that the attention wasn't solely on him. "You're going to sign," he said. "Tonight, in front of everyone. No delays, no theatrics." "I need to read it," I said, trying to keep my voice level, trying to sound like the woman who talks strangers off ledges for a living. "I need time." Dad leaned in, microphone still on letting every syllable land. "If you don't sign, I'll send this entire recording to your workplace. I'll file a complaint about your character. I'll make sure the people who decide promotions and assignments know exactly what kind of person you are. A liar. A user, someone who refuses to pay her debts." There it was. The real weapon. Not the money, not the paperwork. My livelihood. Around the room, heads nodded. A few relatives shifted like they wanted to clap, like public humiliation was a family tradition they'd missed. Tessa's phone stayed trained on me. "Say something," she whispered, smiling for her audience. "They want to hear you squirm." I felt the old impulse rise, the one that always tried to fix everything. Apologize. Explain. make it easier for them to forgive me for existing. Instead, I forced my hands to stop shaking. I looked at the faces watching at the phones recording at the contract, waiting like a trap. And then I noticed him. Near the emergency exit, half in shadow, a man stood alone in a gray suit that didn't belong in this room. He wasn't staring with curiosity. He was staring like it hurt. Dad's eyes flicked to him and back too fast, too panicked. I didn't look away from my father when I spoke. Before I sign anything, I said calm as ice, I have one question you're going to answer. Dad's mouth tightened. What question? Why the audience? I asked. If this is family business, why the microphone, the camera, and a chair set up like I'm on trial? And why is there already a contract printed with a payment schedule waiting for my signature? Clay's eyes flashed. Because you owe us. No, I said, letting the silence sharpen. Because you're on a deadline. I turned to Tessa's phone. The red live badge glared like an accusation. You told me Dad wanted to go over paperwork early, I said. What did you see? Tessa's smile twitched. Marilyn, stop. Finish it, I said. You started it. Mom snapped, turn that off. Tessa didn't. She never could. I saw an email, she blurted. From a law office. It said the agreement was ending. It said you had to disclose. Mandatory. The room shifted. Whispering started not about me now, but about them. Clay lunged for her phone. I stood just enough to block him. So this isn't a sudden discovery, I said. This is you trying to trap me before the truth gets to me. Mom's voice went thin. You're making things up. Then explain the agreement, I shot back. Explain why you needed 70+ relatives to watch me sign away my life. A chair scraped. Aunt Lorraine rose, clutching her purse so hard her knuckles blanched. Sit down, Mom hissed. Lorraine didn't. Her eyes locked on the man near the exit. I followed her gaze. A stranger in a gray suit stepped forward. Clay's face drained, like his body recognized a threat his mouth couldn't deny. Don't sign anything, the stranger said, calm as a verdict. Clay grabbed the microphone. You can't be here. The man looked at me first, like he'd been searching for my face. Then he turned to the room and said the words that made every phone lift higher. I'm your father! The room erupted. Gasps, chairs scraping. My mother's mouth opened and closed without sound. My voice came out small. They said you were gone. They needed you to believe that he said. It kept you obedient. A woman beside him handed him a thick folder. He opened it and held up the top pages. Before you demand $500,000 from my daughter, he said to Clay, let's talk about the payments you've been accepting for years. Lorraine's purse slipped open. Old receipts peeked out like they'd been waiting for air. Clay's hand trembled on the mic. And in that moment, I realized my birthday wasn't the trial. It was the evidence. The room stalled. Tessa's red live badge glowed in my peripheral vision like a warning light. The man in the gray suit set his folder on the table and opened it without theatrics. He laid the pages down in a neat row like he was daring my parents to deny ink and dates. You're demanding $500,000 tonight, he said to Clay, calm and audible over the microphone. So here's what you don't want her to know. You've already been paid. Clay's grip tightened. That's not payments, the man said, cutting him off with the kind of control you can't fake. Month after month, for nearly 30 years. Around 1,500 each time, more than 500,000 total. He nudged the top pages forward, received and confirmed. Murmurs rippled through the relatives. People leaned in. Someone sucked in a sharp breath like they'd just realized they'd been cheering for the wrong side. My mother snapped, He's lying. He's a fraud. Aunt Lorraine stood up trembling. She opened her purse and pulled out a small stack of old receipts. I kept some, she whispered. You told me to burn them. I couldn't. My mother went rigid. Clay's eyes flicked to those receipts with a panic he couldn't hide. I stared at my parents at the contract shoved at me at my keys, clenched in my mother's fist. The shame in my chest hardened into something colder. So you took money, I said quietly, for years. And you still treated me like I was lucky you tolerated me. Clay turned to the room, trying to summon the old story. We raised her. We sacrificed. The man in gray didn't raise his voice. You accepted payment to care for her, he said. And tonight you tried to charge her again in public with a camera rolling because you thought fear would make her sign. Tessa kept filming. She couldn't stop, not when the spotlight had finally shifted. I lifted my phone and captured what mattered. The live screen with my sister narrating, Clay's contract with the bold total, my mother holding my keys like evidence, Lorraine's receipts on the table, the stack of payments laid out for everyone to see. Receipts, not opinions. Then I opened the family group thread they used for holidays and guilt and pretending everything was fine. I typed one line. Thanks for the receipts. I hit send. Phones buzzed across the room. Heads dipped. Eyes lifted. Clay's shoulders sagged like he'd just realized the jury wasn't his anymore. I slid the unsigned contract back toward him. Keep it, I said. It belongs with your performance. My mother took a step like she might block me, then stopped when she noticed the cameras had turned to her. I looked at the man in gray. I can't call you that yet, I said softer. But thank you. He nodded once like he understood exactly how much I could handle. I walked out. Behind me, Tessa's live stream kept rolling, and for the first time all night, it wasn't my face they wanted. 3 days later, my supervisor called me in. I expected my father's email and that live stream to land like a bomb. Instead, she said she'd watched the footage and saw me stay steady while a room full of people tried to corner me. That's leadership, she told me. I walked out with the promotion I'd been working toward earned on my own. Clay and Renee kept calling. I let it ring. Tessa deleted the live, but the receipts were already everywhere, and suddenly the family group went quiet. Elliot texted once, "No rush. I'm here when you're ready." That night I realized my one-line message wasn't revenge. It was a boundary. If you were me, would you forgive them? Comment A for yes, B for no, or C if it depends on real accountability. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. If you want more stories like this, like and subscribe.
The real issue here is non-consensual filming, when someone turns a private family conflict into public content to gain power, attention, or control. The pattern usually looks the same. The person with the camera creates urgency, so you feel trapped and reactive instead of thoughtful. The narrative in real time, framing you as the villain before you have ever spoken, and the room's silence becomes the backup choir. The goal isn't truth, it's leverage. If you are embarrassed enough, you will comply just to make it stop. And once it's public, the act lies out of their hands, even though they press the button. The consequences are bigger than one bad night. Public shaming can damage your reputation, relationships, and sense of safety, even if it did nothing wrong. It can trigger a spiral of second-guessing. If everyone watched, maybe I'm the problem, which is exactly what manipulators want. It can bleed into work and friendships because people outside the family may only see the clip, not the context. Worst of all, it teaches the family that humiliation is an acceptable tool. 3 actionable steps. Number 1, stop performing. Say one calm lie and repeat it. I'm not discussing this while I'm being recorded. Then pause. Your steadiness is your shield. Number 2, preserve the truth quietly. Screenshot, save timestamps, and write a short timeline while it's fresh. Don't argue online, just secure your receipts. Number 3, lock your access points. Change passwords, tighten privacy settings, and limit who can reach you. One boundary message is enough. You don't need to debate to enforce distance. Our stand is simple. Turning someone's pain into entertainment is a form of harm, even when it's family. And if a person only respects you when there's no camera, they were never respecting you in the first place. You don't win by going louder. You win by going clearer. If someone tried to film your lowest moment, what boundary could you set first? And could you enforce it even if the whole room got uncomfortable?